Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into something that's at the absolute heart of any code that deals with text, the Python string. I mean, if you've ever wondered how programs actually understand, manipulate, and even create language, well, you're in the right place.
So let's just start with that big fundamental question, right? How on earth does a computer, a machine that really only thinks in ones and zeros, manage to work with human language? The answer is one of the most important ideas in all of programming.
And that answer is this thing called a string. It sounds fancy, but it's actually super simple. It's just a sequence of characters. That could be letters, numbers, symbols, even spaces. Anything you can type, really. You just wrap it up in quotation marks and boom. That's how we tell our code, hey, this is text. Okay, so how do we actually make these things and work with them? Let's start at square one. Just creating a string and then figuring out how long it is. The absolute basics. First thing you need to know, in Python, you can use either double quotes or single quotes. See? Both of these work perfectly fine. Honestly, it doesn't matter which one you use. The most important thing is just to pick a style and be consistent with it in your project.
All right, so you've got a string. One of the first things you'll probably want to know is, how long is it? Python makes this ridiculously easy with a built-in function called len. You literally just pass your string to it, and it does all the work.
And there you have it. It just tells you the number of characters. The string Python has 6 letters, so len gives you back the number 6. Pretty simple, right?
So we can make strings, but how do we get specific pieces out of them? You know, like just the first letter or maybe the last 3? This is where things start to get really cool and powerful.
To do this, you gotta understand something called indexing. The easiest way to think about it is to picture your string laid out on a ruler. But, and this is super important, in programming, our rulers almost always start at 0, not 1. So each character gets its own spot, its own number, starting from 0.
So, using these index numbers inside square brackets, we can pinpoint any character we want. Index 0 will always be the very first character. And here's a fantastic little trick. You can also use negative numbers. An index of -1 starts from the end of the string, so it always gives you the very last character. So useful.
Now this brings us to a really crucial rule about strings in Python. They are immutable. It's a bit of a technical term, but all it means is that once a string is created, you can't change it. You can't just go in and swap out a letter. If you want to make a change, you actually have to create a whole new string.
Let me show you what I mean. If you take the word Python and try to just change the first letter to a J like this, you're going to get an error. Python just won't let you do it. Instead, you have to build a new string from pieces of the old one. So here, we're taking the letter J and adding it to a slice of our original string. That 1: syntax basically means, give me everything from the second character all the way to the end. The result is a brand new string, Jython.
This idea of creating new strings is the perfect lead-in to our next section, the amazing toolbox of built-in string methods. Think of these as special actions that strings know how to perform. You just put a dot after your string and tell it what to do, and it gives you back a new modified string.
First up in the toolbox, let's talk about changing the case. Let's say you have a string with really messy capitalization. You can just call the .upper method on it, and it will give you back a brand new string that's completely in uppercase. Easy. And yep, there's a .lower too.
Okay, this next one is a lifesaver. Have you ever gotten data from a user that has all these extra spaces at the beginning or the end? The .strip method is your absolute best friend here. It cleans all that junk up, giving you a nice clean string without that leading or trailing white space. You will use this one all the time.
Another super common task, right? Finding some text and replacing it with something else. The .replace method does exactly what it says on the tin. Here, we're finding every instance of Java and creating a new string where it's replaced with Python. Simple as that.
Now, these methods don't always have to give you back a string. Sometimes you just need to ask a question. For example, .starts with lets you check if a string begins with a certain sequence of characters. It just returns true or false. This is perfect for stuff like checking if a file name has the right prefix or validating user input.
So we've got all these individual tools in our toolbox. Now, let's see how we can put them together to solve some real practical problems. This is where the fun really begins.
All right, these two are a classic duo, splitting and joining.
Let's say you have a single string of comma-separated values. You can use .split to instantly break it apart into a list of individual items. And you can do the reverse, too. If you have a list of words, you can use .join to stitch them all together into a single clean sentence.
Now, what if you want to mix your variables right into your text? For years, there were a few ways to do this. But today, the best, cleanest, and most modern way is using f-strings. You just put an F right before the first quote, and then you can pop your variables directly into the string by putting them inside curly braces. It's so much more readable.
But wait, there's more. F-strings aren't just for plugging in variables. They are incredibly powerful for formatting. Just look at this perfectly aligned table, like a receipt. We created that by adding special codes inside the curly braces. We can control the column width, we can align the text left or right, and we can even format our numbers to always have 2 decimal places. This is how you create really clean, professional-looking text output.
So let's put it all together in a real-world scenario. Imagine a user types their name into a form, and it's a mess. Look, extra spaces, weird capitalization. We can chain our methods together to fix this in one go. First, we strip away the white space. Then, on that result, we immediately call title to fix the capitalization. And just like that, in one elegant line of code, we've turned that messy input into clean, reliable data.
And that's our whirlwind tour of Python strings. You've seen how to create them, how to pull out just the pieces you need, and how to use this amazing toolbox of methods to transform them into anything you want. These really are the foundational skills for working with any kind of text. So, now you've got the tools. The only question is, what are you going to build with them?